Hello, everybody. This is Mike from the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. My wife Beth and I would like to invite you to join us each week as we examine life at the intersection of marriage, family, careers, and ministry. Through 28 years of ministry, 26 years of marriage, 23 years of professional careers, and 21 years of being parents to 3 kids, our fun and honest discussions promise to have something for everyone. And now, on to the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Hey, Are You Still There podcast. Now, before I let you know if Beth is or is not with us this week, I got to say I have a real problem with you people. Last week, I had to do the podcast by myself. Beth was not here. As I explained in the podcast, she was moving our daughter to Florida for her summer job at Disney World. And I thought I put together a heck of a podcast. I thought it was good stories. I shared some stuff that had been going on in our lives. I talked about our daughter's car accident recently. I talked about our sons moving. I did just all kinds of stuff. It was just kind of a good guy talk. Hey, here's what's going on in life. It was the lowest listened to episode that we've ever had. The lowest. So is Beth, is she the glue that holds this all together? We're going to see this week. Welcome back, Beth.
I'm here. But I didn't know when you were saying all that. I was like, wait a minute. He said, before I let you know if Beth is back, I'm like, am I supposed to comment? But here's the thing. But they don't know that I'm not there when they download it.
And I'm never going to put that again. I put in the description, Mike goes solo this week, blah, 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 blah.
But my mom said that you told some really good stories.
I
haven't
know.
listened
It was
yet.
a great episode.
And so that's kind of disappointing because I know that you talked about Maria's car accident and kind of like that was like for us. And you talked about the kids' internship. So, I mean, I have got to listen. I've planned to go exercise after this.
You're not going to listen. You came home from Florida and you said, what did you say about Maria's car wreck? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, on the podcast, what did you say about it? I said, just listen to the podcast.
I know.
And I was like, I'm not going to rehash it. It feels weird to listen
to our podcast.
But it's just me. You're not on there.
I know. That's why I'll listen. But then what if you say something that I'm like, I don't know how I feel about what he said since it's, quote, our podcast. But I guess I need to know.
It's not, quote, our podcast. It originally started out as my podcast.
So I'm just like your guest that's here every week.
I drug you along, kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
And now you love it. And obviously everybody loves you and nobody listens to me.
I don't think that's true.
I hate these listeners.
I think that you just had a low week because it's a pre-holiday week.
Yeah,
it was the week before a holiday.
Somebody was celebrating Memorial Weekend Eve.
Yes, exactly. And so they were trying to like do that. And
I don't even think your mom listened.
She did. She told me things you said. No. So I know she did. She listened. Okay. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. That's very disappointing. And I hope our listeners will come through.
Well, it hurt my self-esteem greatly.
I know. I mean,
I went up in my new man cave and just sulked.
Which, as an aside, really quick, before we get to your man cave, but now the listeners are in a lose-lose because if they listen a lot to this one, then that might make you feel even worse. They didn't listen
last week, so they don't even know what man cave I'm talking about.
Well, they're
going to be totally lost this week.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So should we, I guess you shouldn't tell them. Make them go back and listen to know about your man cave.
You just don't want to talk about it.
No, I can talk about it.
You got your woman cave out there. I thought about it.
I have that is not a woman cave because you let all those animals on there.
The animals can come up to the man cave.
No, y'all invaded my space when you did that.
You've got a woman cave out there in the sunroom full of your plants.
I have moved. Have you noticed that I have tried to get rid of some of the plants?
Well, I mean, now they're spread out all over our deck. I see that.
Well, yeah, I put some outside, but also I did get rid of some so that I could get some new types, like that one that my mom brought. So yeah, so I'm working hard to like really. I mean, it's going to be.
I'm in a bitter mood today.
I know, I can tell.
I went to the doctor today.
Yes.
I had my annual checkup. And I'm usually against vaccines and shots. He asked me today.
Not all vaccines and shots.
Well, at my age.
Yeah, you don't like the flu shot. I know
right,
that.
I mean, at this
I get
point,
the flu shot every year.
I'm like, I've got at best 10 years to live. So it's like,
Oh my gosh, that's very depressing.
what's the point, right? So, but he was like, it's been 10 years since you had your last tetanus shot. Do you want one? And I hesitated, but I went ahead and did it.
Well, thank goodness, because that's a ridiculous one for you not to get.
He also asked me, he said, you're at the age now where you can get the shingles vaccine.
Oh, I got that one, baby.
I said, my wife did.
Yes.
And he's like, how'd she do with it? I was like, I guess she did all right. And I was like,
Remember, I felt really bad. You
No, I
forgot,
don't.
but I only felt bad for one day, and it was over.
That's what he said. He said
shingles
you'll feel bad
is
for a
the
while.
worst. And like, I mean, I've had so many friends that have had it. Even friends that hate to get are afraid of needles, hate shots, don't like vaccines. All of them have been like, get that vaccine
Well,
because
he
shingles
asked
is
me,
awful.
and I said, I'll pass.
No, you are insane.
And he was like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, I'll just
No.
roll the dice and take my chances.
Okay, that makes me really angry because let me tell you why. Shingles can get in your ear and damage your hearing.
You know what? I asked him about my hearing also.
Oh, what did he say? That is it bad?
Well, no, they don't do hearing tests.
Oh.
He's going to set me up with a hearing doctor. I've been told that maybe my hearing is not what it used to be, that I talk louder now than I used to. And
Well, see, I just thought you had selective hearing because there's lots of things I tell you that I said, and then you're like, no, you never said that. And I'm like, yes, I did.
sometimes I think people are mumbling.
Well,
I
I
really
thought-
think they're talking. And I've noticed I have to have the TV up a little louder now. And someone told me I talk louder.
Who said that?
I don't want to name names.
Okay. Do we get hints?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, it
I'll tell
wasn't
you
me.
after the show.
It wasn't me that said that, but
Yeah.
I just noticed that you sometimes don't listen to me. But I thought that was like an intentional blocking out of half the things I said,
Maybe subconsciously I'm trying to make myself go deaf.
so you don't have to hear.
Yeah.
It's like you love it when I like lose my voice or
Yeah.
whatever.
That never happens.
It does. It has happened in the past. It's been a long
So they're
time.
sending me to an ear doctor.
Yeah.
They're going to run these tests.
Remember that time when Josh was born, we didn't know if he could hear and we had to wait till, I forget, we had to wait and do his hearing test. He didn't pass it when he was born. And then we would always look and we're like, we think he can hear. But they had to wait. I forget how old he was when we finally got the hearing test and knew he passed. And you forgot that, didn't you? Okay, he's shaking his head yes, for those of you who can't see, since we don't video this.
I don't remember that.
You forget really important
That
things.
must not be that important. He's fine. He can hear fine.
It was very worrisome, though,
For
that we
you.
didn't. Okay.
Maybe they're memorable for you because you worry and stress over stuff like that.
Well, because I
And I
worry
don't
about
worry
my
and
children.
stress, and
Okay.
I'm fine.
Anyway.
Oh.
So, any more about your health, your doctor visit?
Blood pressure looked pretty good.
By the way,
As
I'm
good
going
as
to try to
it's
get you
been.
to do the shingles. I am going to get everybody
You
to get
are
on you.
not going to make me do that. I'm not doing it.
I'm going to call your doctor
The
and tell him that,
mere
like,
fact you just told me that's what you're going to do
okay.
makes me, right now, I will never, ever get a shingle shot.
okay, then I'm going to tell you you shouldn't.
What do
get
they call it?
Just don't get
Oh, is it?
No, it's oppositional defiance.
That's what I'm doing.
you have.
Oppositional
Yeah,
defiance.
that's what you are doing.
I do
right
have
now.
that.
Yes.
I do not like it when people tell me.
So I will
to
just
do or
have
not
to
do
think of
something.
some good ways to get around that. Yeah.
Well, I told the crew last week, the 4 people that listened. No, there's more than that, but not nearly as many as usual. That I was heading to the WWE and the PGA tournament last weekend, and so Josh and I went to SmackDown WWE in Greensboro last Friday night, and it was okay,
Just okay?
just okay.
Is this because your tastes have changed? See, that's the struggle I have. You know, like you and I've talked about before when we travel to big cities. Sometimes now, and we're just like, eh.
No,
and is it
you
like
know-
did our taste change, or is the quality of this city declined? You know, same thing with WWE. That'd be my question.
Okay, so I only bought tickets as a gamble, and I admit I lost the gamble.
Oh, because you had hoped somebody would show
I
up.
was hoping John Cena would be
Yeah.
there. He's the biggest wrestler I've never seen live.
Right.
So I really wanted to see John Cena. And he's on his farewell tour. And I really hoped he'd be there.
Right.
And they, to their credit, they didn't advertise he was going to be there.
Right.
But they also didn't advertise anybody was going to be there.
Right.
So you didn't know till you got there that night.
Right.
And I thought, well, when it became apparent John Cena wasn't going to be there, I thought, well, maybe Cody Rhodes will be here. And then he wasn't there. And so there was a lot of like big stars that weren't
there. Right.
And they really only had, I would say, in the whole 3-hour show, 2 big stars. Everybody else I would consider like B level.
Why do you think they did that?
I don't know, but I was kind of disappointed in the quality of the WWE superstars. So that was kind of a bummer.
It's not much of a quote superstars if it's like only 2 real superstars.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So then,
false advertising.
I will tell you, Alexa Bliss is back.
Oh,
Our daughter Maria used to worship Alexa Bliss.
Alexa Bliss.
That's what turned Maria into a wrestling fan. All those years
She
ago.
had the drawings and the posters and everything.
Every shirt you could imagine.
Yeah,
I mean, she
it was there.
obsessed. So Alexa Bliss had a baby a couple years ago, has been gone. She just came back. So she was there Friday night. So that was kind of cool to see her.
Yeah.
And she got the loudest cheer.
Oh, that's
Everybody
cool. Yeah.
was glad to have Alexa Bliss back. So that was kind of nice to see
Yeah.
her again. But anyway, so then Saturday, Josh and I headed down to Charlotte and we met up with Jacob. We did a spontaneous escape room.
Which I was really jealous because I like a good escape room. I think they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really good. It was one of the best I've ever done. The one that we did in West Virginia.
That one was awesome. I didn't get to do the same one as you,
Yeah.
but yours sounded amazing.
Yeah, the one we did had won like escape room of the year or something like that. And then it came in like second or third in the entire world. It was fascinating. But the one that we did, I think was called Speedway Escape Room. It was somewhere near the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It was phenomenal. It was awesome. It was just me and Jacob and Josh in there. And we had an hour and we got out with a minute and a half left.
Well, we did.
It was a vampire theme.
Well, that's what, because I'd asked, when I talked briefly to the boys, how it compared to the ones, and the only one that I can, there's one we did at Haynes Mall, which is a mall in Winston. We did that with the youth group, and I didn't like that one because it was a lot of just like combination locks. I mean, you still had quote clues, but it wasn't immersive. The experience wasn't. It was just like
one room.
Go do this lock, and now that you've done this lock, there'll be a clue to the next lock. But in Greensboro, there's an escape room, and I did one with the ladies from church, I think a year ago. I'm trying to remember the theme of the one that we did, but I remember the theme of the one I did with the boys that's in Greensboro, and it was like a Western theme. And the reason that sticks out is because Jacob's favorite video game of all time is like Red Dead 2. And so he was, really into that escape room because you actually, it was that Western saloon little, like, almost, it was very well themed and it was a lot of fun. But the boys said that this one you did was as good or better than that one.
Yeah, it was great. It was very immersive, had multiple rooms. I found out the owner of it talked to us afterwards. And he was an older guy, older than me, and he said that he has spent his whole life building haunted houses. He went around the U.S. building haunted houses. So he was like, "This is just like a haunted house. Instead of trying to scare you, I'm trying to stump you." Yeah.
That's like Maria's dream now. It would be like, of course, she wants to work for Disney, maybe designing theme parks, but she would really love. There's Universal's. Disney has like a Mickey's Not So Scariest Halloween. It's very much more kid focused, but Universal Studios has Halloween Horror Nights, and they have houses that are themed differently each year, and they go all out. And so Maria would love to do that. So maybe we should mention escape rooms to her too.
Yeah,
it's like, I never even thought about it, but when you have the theming and stuff, you do have to have like the creativity around the decorations and all that stuff. I never would have put those together.
It was really, really well. You tell like whoever built it knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so, so it was kind of cool. And then the next day we went to the PGA Championship. It was held at Quail Hollow in Charlotte. Quail Hollow is probably where the richest of the rich live in Charlotte. There's the owner of the Panthers lives there. There's there have been celebrities that have lived there over the years. I mean, these houses are the biggest houses I've ever seen.
Right.
I mean, they're just massive around this Quail Hollow Country Club. But Josh had never been to a PGA or any kind of golf tournament before. Jacob and I have been a few times. And so it was cool to go there with Josh and, the three of us walked the grounds. And much like Friday Night SmackDown, the PGA Championship was lacking in star power. And,
really?
Yeah. So, I think it was something like 98 of the top 100 golfers in the world entered the tournament. And by the time it was all over, I think only 2 of the top 10 made the top 20.
Oh.
Like it was so many didn't even make the cut.
Yeah.
Big names. And then the ones that did make the cut, like Rory McIlroy was way down. Like he didn't have a shot. So we got there early enough and followed Rory around, but he didn't have the gallery he normally would have watching him. And so we followed him. We followed some other guys we like that are not as big. And then, of course, we got to see Bryce DeChambeau, who's big. And then Scotty Scheffler, who won the tournament, and he's number 1 in the world. But let me ask, this is what I want to talk to you about. I haven't told you this story yet because I want to get your reaction.
Okay.
There have been times in our life that we have been someplace, vacation, we'll say a national park, and we'll want a family picture together.
Yes.
What do people commonly do when they want a picture and they want everybody in it?
I was going to say, well, if no one's there, because if no one's there, then you have to resort to trying to prop the phone up and doing crazy things. But you're in a very populated place, which there should be plenty of people. So I tend to look and find someone that looks like they'll have good photography skills and know how to work a phone. And I ask them if they'll take a picture. And I tend to say, because usually if I want a picture, sometimes they're with someone. So I'll be like, I'd be happy to take a photo of you and whomever you're with, if you'll take our photo.
Okay. And people have asked you to take pictures.
Well, just driving Maria to Florida and being in Disney in the parks, I took pictures there of multiple people multiple times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do it all the time.
In your life, have you ever told someone no?
No. Never.
Has anybody ever told you no?
No. The most anybody's done is every once in a while we'll have someone, like, let's say there's somebody who maybe isn't as comfortable, or they're like, oh, I don't take good pictures, but my daughter does or something. And so they'll pull somebody else in to do it. But I've never had anyone say no.
Well, here's the situation. We're heading over to the tent. They have this massive tent. It's the size of Target that has all this PGA gear in it that you can buy for the tournament. So Jacob wanted to go over there. He wanted to get him a hat. So we're walking through. Well, the way the golf tournament is laid out, obviously you can walk along beside the course, like beside each hole. You can walk around the holes, like around the backside or whatever. And some of the holes have cut-throughs. And so as long as there's not golfers actually playing the hole, they have attendants that will lift a rope up and release it. You can walk, people can walk across the fairway, and then when the golfers come up, they put their ropes back, everybody clears off, and the golfers can play. It's just to allow so there's not so much congestion, So I don't know what hole it was. 9, 10, 2, I don't know, somewhere around there. We were walking across, and we were walking across the fairway because there was no golfers, and they had the rope up, and they were letting us for those few moments walk across, because they might have it up for maybe 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. And then the next group walks up and then they put the ropes back up. So we're walking across and we get to the middle of the fairway. And I think Jacob stopped to take a picture because when else are we going to be in the middle of a fairway and be able to and it was a cool shot looking down. We were kind of close to the green. You had just grandstands of people sitting there behind it. I mean, it was a cool setting. And so Jacob snapped a picture and I said, hey, let me get y'all's picture. So Jacob and Josh turned, and I got this cool picture with them, middle of fairway. Nobody's behind them. It's just them and then the green and then all these people sitting in the stands. So we finished and got ready to walk away, and one of them was like, hey, Dad, you want your picture? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll get my picture with y'all. Well, I look, and here comes this lady walking right toward us. And I was like, I'll just get her, see if she'll snap it. And I said, excuse me, ma'am. I said, would you mind taking a picture of my son and I's? Nope. And kept on walking.
And why? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, what would be, because, see, that would make me furious. And that's when I would probably say things I shouldn't to her. Because, number one, okay, it's one thing, like, okay, if you're in New York City and somebody's got on a business suit or something and you can tell they're rushing to get to work or something, maybe. But you are somewhere where unless she was running something was on fire.
And she put her hand up and didn't even look me in the eye and was just totally dismissive and said no. And like I was trying to sell her something on the golf course is what you would have thought. That I was some type of door-to-door salesman, like trying to get her to peddle something.
Was she just like
buy.
too good to talk to you?
I
Was
guess.
she like just so like highfalutin or something?
We
that she's
sat
like,
there stunned.
Yeah.
I looked at the boys and we all sat there with their mouth open like, did she really just say no? And I get it. I said, ma'am, will you please take a picture? I gave her that option. You know?
And she said no.
And there's probably some parts of the country I would expect people would say no.
Right.
I'm going to say the Northwest and Northeast.
But you're
corners.
in the South.
We're in the South. I mean, this is like human decency says, sure, I'll stop for 3 seconds and take your picture.
You're also in a location where that people take pictures. It's not like I don't know, like you've got a porta-john behind you or something really strange.
But I'm glad you
weird
said it would make you irate.
Oh, it would make me furious.
I was boiling. Like when she said no, I just wanted to be like, who the bleep do you think you are?
Yeah, to just be like,
you old bee.
That you can't take a minute. Because that's the other thing too. Like even, for example, when I've stopped, we have been rushing to get to a ride before. I mean, you know how those Disney rides are. It's like you look on the app and you're like, oh, there's only a whatever. Wait, we've got to rush over here. Or, the fireworks start. We've got to go hold our place. I still will stop and do a picture. Now, I might get irritated if the people start to want to like take 15 pictures or something. That might be when I'm sorry, but I've never even done that. I still stay and do it. To me, it's free. What does it cost you? I mean, I guess that would be my question. There are some things people do and you're asking them something that cost them. But what you asked her, you weren't asking her to go to the store and get gas because you'd run out of gas. You weren't asking her to go or to purchase something from you that cost money. You weren't asking her to take 30 minutes away.
The only two places she could have went was the merchandise tent or the food tent.
Right.
That's it. It wasn't like she was waiting on a car. I watched her. There was no group of people waiting on her. It was just, nope, I don't have time for you.
Ugh.
I was so angry. I was so mad.
And then you're just preventing somebody. Well, too.
And you know what?
Are very precious.
We didn't get a picture of the three of us. Because by that point, the rope had come back up, started being put back up, and I'm like, come on, we gotta go.
Okay, that would have, if I'd have been there, I might have had to say something because that would have made me absolutely furious. She prevented you from getting a memory of something that's a one-time thing for you and the boys. That is just wrong.
I know.
And I just want to say what's wrong with people. And I'm sorry if you listen and I
hope she is listening. I hope she runs across this podcast and she's listening right now. And she knows I'm the one that sold that kind man with his 2 kids when they asked me to take a picture. I'm the one that said no. Lady, you're going to get yours.
I guess my question, though, again, would be, what did it cost her? What would it matter? It cost her nothing. That's the part I don't understand. That just really bothers me. And I just think the level, who are we as a society now that this is like what we are? I used to have a dish. I still have it, but I had it in my office and it said, I'm very busy and important. But it was just because, I was always like, running around and stuff at work. But that's kind of what that makes me, I was saying it as a joke. This makes me think about somebody like her being like, I'm very busy and important. How dare you? Peon ask me to touch your nasty phone.
That's the way she acted. She put her hand up leave.
Now that would have made me mad too. I would have been like, I'm sorry, are you like a princess or something and I didn't recognize you?
She's on the beach in Jamaica and I'm trying to sell her a necklace.
Yes. That's just like, not cool at all.
Anyway, I thought you would enjoy that story.
Well, I don't because it makes me sad and angry on your behalf and on the boys' behalf.
But we had a great time anyway. We had a really good time. Jacob said it was a 10 out of 10 weekend.
Nice.
So we had really, really fun times. And the boys went back home and we came back home and then waited a few days and you came back home.
Well, where I was, it was like walking on the surface of the sun. It was so hot and so humid that it was kind of like you were almost swimming through the air instead of walking through it. Already, and yes, I know Florida, Maria worked outside in Epcot parking in the blazing sun and heat through August. She worked there January through August. So we know it gets hot, but it was unseasonably hot for May. And there was like one day that both of us almost just felt like nauseous from the heat and everything. And so you would just walk outside and you were just sweating. And we needed to move things in and do all of that. And we got to see a lot of Maria's friends, and I got to meet her roommates, and that was kind of interesting.
They're local.
Oh yeah, they're definitely. So what's interesting is Maria has one of her very close friends that was in the Disney College program that overlapped with her just a little bit last year. And that friend is from California. So Maria, you probably told them last week the saga of having to fill up the Jeep with all of her stuff. Maria picked up her friend Alex, and her friend Alex stayed in the hotel with us because last time Alex drove her car across the United States because she was going to be here like 5 or 6 months, right? So it took her like 4 days to drive from California to Florida, and then she had to drive it back. This time they were like, well, you're only here, for the summer, so we're going to have you fly out. And she was going to just sleep on a friend's couch, but we said she could stay with us. So Maria went to pick Alex up at the airport. And this involved all sorts of like gymnastics because the Jeep is small and we had to get stuff out of Maria's and move it into our tiny hotel room and all of that. When she picked up Alex had one suitcase. One suitcase. That's it. We took Alex to Target and she bought like her sheets and pillow and stuff like that. But the contrast between Alex, who has one suitcase, Maria, I kid you not, has an entire bin full of her Mickey ears that was larger and fuller than Alex's suitcase. It was just stunning. And somehow in all that, Alex had not only her clothes and stuff like that, she still had some room decorations in there, like some posters and things. So it was crazy. So anyway, these rooms are set up in that you come in the door and there's a lock to get in the main door, like a key entry. But then they also have a lock that blocks off the section with 2 bedrooms on one side and a bathroom. And then the other 2 bedrooms and bathroom on the other side have a lock. So I like that because you've got a lot of security and stuff. Well, Maria and Alex will be sharing the little area in the bathroom. And then
one half of the quad.
Yeah, those two are together. So we didn't know. The thing that's so weird about this Disney College program, I think people think you're going to move in and it's like college. You're all moving in at the same time and you meet everyone. It is not like that at all. You have to go and they give you a time. They're like, okay, show up on Monday at 10 o'clock. Park your car, ride this bus over to this place, store your luggage. Like if you're Alex, store your luggage outside, ride this bus over. And then Maria had to stand in line and not only get like her keys and her assignment, because we didn't even know which room she would have until that day, but also she did like her background check and all of her employment verification. Last year when we did this, it took all day. You and I were there. They said they moved in like 1,000 people in one day. But the part that was the most stunning to me was not that and how awful the waiting was. The part that was most stunning to me last year is when we move her in, the only girl that we meet the day that we move her in is a girl that's like, I'm moving out in 2 days because her program was over. Maria went multiple days before she even met her other roommates. So it's not like you move into this room and, if you've never done the college program, there's not like some welcome sheet or it's not even like an Airbnb or something, where they've got the instructions.
These kids are living their own life and they could care less.
Yes, because they are working. Mm-hmm. And like when they do finally come in, they may have just worked a really long shift and they're hot and they're tired and they may or may not have cleaned before the person came. There's all these horror stories of people who maybe didn't clean or do. But They do have it down to a science, because when we walked in this time, we already knew, thank goodness, kind of the drill. So we found her room. We didn't even bother to look at the common space that 4 people share, nor did we really try to even figure out who the roommates were. There was nothing identifying about them there. So we went ahead and just started moving her in. Well, one of the roommates came in, and she had a tad bit of an accent, and she was dressed in her costume. And she's in the Disney International program. And so Disney takes international students and they stay for a year. And she said she was from Norway. Well, we only talked to her really briefly because she was like, well, I'm exhausted. I've worked a long shift. I'm going to go shower and everything. So after we went to Target, we came back and the second roommate was there eating at the counter. So we introduce ourselves and she tells us her name and has barely any accent. And then she says she's from Norway. Well, I get really excited because for people who don't know me, I tend to like know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know a lot about most anything. You know, I've got a little bit of knowledge about all this random stuff. So I got super excited because I told her, I was like, oh my gosh, I watched Vikings. I'm fascinated. I want to go to Norway. And we were talking about all that.
So let me ask you this, and you're going to...
But then you're going to let me tell the good part of the story.
This is going to show my stupidity because this is going to set up how smart you are.
Oh.
Is Norway, I'm not great at geography, is it like up near like Iceland, Scandinavia?
So like you've got Norway and Sweden and Finland and those three, like the finger peninsulas or whatever I would call them, are up there together.
Like Northern Europe.
Yeah, they're very far north. So they're like overpass. So yeah. So Norway is way up there. You know, like that's where people who want to go like really see Santa Claus and reindeer or something can go do it.
Our listeners can't see this, but those at home watching on News Channel 8 can see. Beth was just doing the raise the roof sign with both hands.
Because I'm trying to show that it's up here.
She was pushing it up.
I'm saying Norway is up there at the top.
Raise the roof, Beth.
Yes. So my favorite was though, so we talk a little bit just about like Viking mythology and all of this stuff. But then I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, and I followed this fascinating beluga whale in Norway. And Maria is already giving me the look like, my mom is insane and probably going to embarrass me. And Maria and Alex both kind of look at me and say, you follow a beluga whale? And I said, yes. I said, it's a beluga whale that showed up in Norway and they were really concerned because it seemed overly close to humans and not appropriately afraid of boats. And I said, and they speculated that it was a Russian spy whale. And so I was like, I'm just like, so I have been fascinated following this Instagram account about what happened to this Russian spy whale. So Maria and Alex are like, what? You know, and they're laughing. But her Norwegian roommate was like, yes, I know of this whale that you speak of. And I was like, yes, kids, in your face, you know, like, so I was super excited about that. So we talked about the Russian spy whale. And if y'all want to, I mean, I had to send the link to Maria, but you can Google it. You can just Google beluga whale, Russian, what? I mean.
People are turning off the podcast right now to go Google beluga whale Norway.
But you need to put in the Russian spy whale too to get it all. Anyway, and then I said something about like, well, it must be really hard to live there, not just with the cold, but like with the 24-hour, you know, darkness. And Maria and Alex are like, what? And I was like, yeah. I was like, once you get up far enough north, you know, it was like in the summer, they've got all the daylight. And in the winter, you know, they've got all the darkness. And so this girl, I felt like, you know, when Buddy the elf meets the girlfriend, his love interest, and she's got on the elf costume, he's excited because he's like, I am so glad I've met someone that shares my affinity for elf culture. I felt like that's what this girl felt like with me, that she was super excited to meet an American that shared her affinity for Norwegian culture.
Did she have an affinity or she just knew it because that's where she lived?
Well, she knew it because, no, I'm saying.
I mean, if people ask me questions about the U.S., I could answer it.
No.
But it doesn't mean that I have an affinity for this country.
But no, what I'm saying is I think she was excited that I did, that I was interested in it, but I did learn some new things from her, fascinating, like fun facts, because then she was, we were talking about in the daytime, they were like, oh, I'd like it the most when it's like all daylight. And she's like, yeah, but you can't sleep. And I was like, yeah, you'd have to like pull your shades and have like your eye mask and everything. And she said, well, we don't have air conditioning. That part wasn't surprising because, even in like Montana and Michigan and places like that in the States, if you're far up north enough, they don't have air conditioning. But she said because of that, you have to make sure that your windows are open so that it can keep your house cool. So the thing is, if you've got your windows open, but then you've got your shades closed, that's going to block all of the airflow. So she was just talking about the difficulties of, trying to sleep in that summertime and things. So anyway, that was super fun. And it just made me so happy. And later, Maria also, there's this show, The Last of Us, and she walked in and that same roommate, she said, was watching that show. And then they found out.
So we know she doesn't have any taste.
Okay, well, they both play the video game, Maria and she do. So Maria's pretty excited, I think, about that. So that was kind of fun. So anyway, that was neat. And then it was also unseasonably crowded for some reason. I kept asking everyone if this was some sort of like holiday weekend that no one told me about because it was super crowded everywhere that we went. And again, super hot.
Well, I just looked it up.
Uh-huh.
Norway is ranked by U.S. News and World Reports as the number 11 country in the world to live.
Well, it's interesting though. And this is another fascinating thing. I sat on a plane when I was going to, I think I was going to Uganda. I ended up sitting beside a guy who was from Denmark. And I think that was when I had just read, this was years ago, that Denmark was like the number one country for happiness. So of course I asked him, is it true? And he's like, yeah, I think we are pretty happy. But to talk to this girl about Norway, I mean, of course, she loves her home country. She said it's beautiful. We should definitely visit. But she was like, yeah, and the winters is so cold and dark, everybody just stays in and is miserable. So, I mean, it's just interesting because I do think a lot of these countries, they're ranked really high because they have, good medical care, good retirement plans, good parental leave. They have lots of like safety nets in the country. But it's interesting because I think if you talk to anybody in any of these countries, you find out it's not also always like the news portrays it. Because I also remember seeing this whole thing on the news where people were like showing, the kids all bundled up in all these countries going out and playing. And that's not to say they don't. But I do think it's just like here, if it's super duper cold and dark, people stay in probably more than they would want to. But anyway, it was fascinating. So I just feel like I learned more, and it's made me want to go read
they're
more.
They're ranked number 4 in the world for quality of life, Beth.
See, well, there you go. They just somehow get past the seasonal affective disorder
and that's what
ramifications.
I find interesting. You know what the top 3 for quality of life is? Switzerland's number 3, Sweden number 2, Denmark number 1.
Yeah, Denmark's always like hitting it at the top.
All 4 of them. And then Canada's number 5.
They're cold.
Finland's number 6.
Yes, they're all
cold.
They're
what
cold.
What in the world is going on? So
they get a little bit
I
hot.
like the cold.
Yeah.
So that would not be a good quality of life for me.
Maybe it's because it is so cold, the populations of the countries are smaller, which allows them to offer better services. I don't know. I have no idea, but
I don't know.
But it's fascinating. And I just talked to them too about the culture shock it must have been to go from, they get sort of hot, even in the summer. In Norway, it can get hot. But to go from that to that Florida heat we were talking about?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's crazy.
Or the population. I just saw the population of Norway is 5.5 million.
Yeah.
To put that in perspective, like North Carolina is over twice the size of that.
Yeah.
So you're talking about Norway as a country has half the population of North Carolina. So you got these girls that don't ever see anybody.
Right.
Now they're in Florida, which is just overrun with people.
people.
And then Orlando on top of that,
Yeah.
and Disney. I bet they can't wait to get back to Norway just so they don't have to see anybody again.
Well, the other thing that's funny is when we were talking about Alex, everybody's talking about where they're from. And that's when they'd said something about Alex. And when Alex, with the roommate asked Maria and I how long it took us to drive. And we were like, well, it was over 10 hours because, we had to stop. And she's like, the United States just blows my mind because the country's so big. Mm-hmm. And then Alex was like, yeah, it took 4 days for me. And that's what we talked about. We were like, yeah, Norway, I'm sure fits inside of California, because like Alex is like in San Diego. She could spend, I don't know how much time driving to Northern California alone and not even leave her state.
Norway may fit into South Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't honestly, know geographically, but it's not. But it was just kind of fascinating to think about those differences. And, I'm excited for the girls culturally, it's just enriching because it's also a pretty fascinating experience for both of our kids in these internships and things to think about cost of living differences, to see that because I was complaining about the prices in Orlando and Alex was thinking they were pretty good. And then in Norway, they sell gas by the liter. And I think she said that if she converted that to gallons, it'd be like $7 and something a gallon for gas. So she's like, you can't drive your car very much in Norway. It's very expensive. Mm-hmm. So it's just, again, I think it'll be really enriching, for them. And so I'm excited for her. And then I've been and I got to see where she'll work because she'll be in Galaxy's Edge, which is the Star Wars section. And then it's just cool talking to Jacob briefly and seeing, I'd shared on Instagram a little video of him logging some of the birds that he had tagged and stuff. And so I think for him, just meeting these people that, have this same passion. And I think that's the thing in dropping off both kids where they work. Like as soon as Josh and Jacob and I walked into that Audubon Society, that forest, the two guys that were there and Josh and Jacob immediately started talking about different bird. Do you have this bird species? Do you have this? Do you have this frog? Is the so-and-so toad here? And those guys knew all of it, or would be like, oh yeah, we have them, but they're shy, or you don't see them often, or we have, it was just, it's really, really fun, I think, to see your kids find other people that are as passionate about something as they are. That is really, really fun to watch. And I think that's probably been one of my favorite things in this whole deal with dropping the kids off and seeing that. It's just seeing them find these other people because, we've talked about this too. Our kids have some pretty unique, interest. I mean, some of them aren't okay, Jacob loved football. A lot of people love football, but the level of interest he's had in birds since the time he was literally could barely talk. He would be correcting us about different bird species. Same thing with Josh and insects, and Maria, whether hers is comics or Disney or Star Wars. You don't necessarily just walk around and find lots of people naturally that have that deep of a knowledge and passion for it. So I'm pretty excited for to just continue to see how this changes them, and what they learn. So it's pretty fun. But it was also hard. I mean, I think that's the other thing. It's been emotional. Not only am I physically exhausted from literally driving 4.5 hours to South Carolina on Saturday, driving back on Sunday, then driving 10 plus hours to Florida, and then staying in a hotel with Maria and Alex and moving her in, and then, driving, flying back. But, it's emotional because, it was hard to leave Jacob out in the middle of nowhere, where I don't know anyone. And that's the way I felt last year leaving Maria at Disney. It's one thing when you leave your kid, even if they're adults, but, you move your kids to college and they're like, this is the RA's number. This is the school counselor. There's 30 different ways that if you take your kid to college, you can check in on them. Or, you have friends that live in the area. And even where Jacob is, I have a college, friend, and we've got friends from work camp that live, 30 minutes to an hour away. But we don't know anybody, like if Jacob had like an emergency, like that can get there, in minutes to help him. That's hard, to like go somewhere where you don't have those additional, like, I guess, that safety blanket or whatever for your kids. It's hard to turn around and leave. And you're super excited for them. I'm so excited for them. But then there's a part of me that's sad. And I'm trying to, I'm exhausted. And I'm trying to process that I'm so excited that they're connecting with people, that they're following their dreams, that they're getting these great experiences. But then anxiety's in there, like, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if a snake bites Jacob? What if the power goes off and you can't contact him? What if Maria driving on I-4, which, by the way, we drove all the way to Florida, even on 95, and we were fine till we got on I-4, which is like part of the road between Universal and Orlando, and it is a nightmare. So leaving your kid to drive on I-4 is terrifying. But, that's when all those what ifs. And then I start to think, did I talk to them enough? Like now social media will have these things like, girl gets in an Uber and drinks a sealed bottle of water and is drugged. And I'm like, did I tell Maria not to drink sealed bottles of water? That's where my mind starts to go. Like, have I warned my kids about every possible thing that could happen? Have I prepared them appropriately? And then there's the whole thing too. Like, I'll miss them. I miss having everybody here together because we don't really get to have that often anymore. So that part's sad too. So it's just a lot. It's a lot to process and kind of manage through, in addition to just dealing with the logistics of making it all happen.
But you made it all happen.
Yeah, we made it happen. We all did. Yeah, because you had to bear the brunt of packing. Helping pack Maria's car.
I couldn't wait to get her out of the house just so I could. I talked about it last week on the podcast, trying to reclaim that bonus room. Now I've got to work on the garage, but she's going to be in for a shock when she comes home.
Yeah.
And she sees all those bins of her junk that are just been put in big plastic tubs that are sitting in her floor now in her bedroom.
Well, I think the other thing, I thought about because I had a lot of time driving, that she was listening to music or doing whatever. And so I'm just in my head. And life's just funny because I feel like now that my kids are adults and on their own, I've finally figured out better ways to relate to them, or the way I should have said things or done things, or the way, and maybe too through my own counseling.
Screaming and cussing at them, you don't think it's the right way?
No, I don't. I don't advise that.
You're like, eat your bleeping Cheerios.
I did not do that.
It was like 2.
No, I didn't. No, but maybe that time I shouldn't have asked her if she could spell teeth. That's one of legend. Anyway, but no, seriously, like I've just figured, like I've learned so much now that I'm 50 about, parenting. There's so many more resources, even when we talk about the Enneagram or their love language, like the fact that the boys are introverts and Maria and I are extroverts, like there's just so many things that I feel like I've learned about them, and also growth that I've had, through my own therapy and stuff. I think in reflecting, the part that makes me sad is like, we're never matched up in time. There's always like a mismatch in maybe my ability to meet them where they needed to be met and to give them what they needed when they needed it. Like if I could go back now, I think I could be really good and patient and sort of know how to manage when Jacob was being super stubborn because we changed his car seat and he couldn't deal with change, or when Maria was like really messy instead of blowing up about it.
But do you think maybe that's why grandparents seem more relaxed to us?
Yeah, because we joke that it's because they can give the kid back.
But
we joke about that.
They're at the age where they realize
all this other stuff doesn't matter.
It's not that big of a deal.
And I think that is, and I think that is part of it, because we always joke it's because the grandparents are like, oh, well, I can hand them back over. I don't know, to your point, that it's that. Because I even look at the difference in how Josh is 6 years younger than Jacob. The things like Josh lost his retainer and I bought another one, and I talked to him about it, but I didn't yell at him. I mean, I was like, now here's all the reasons we can't do this. Now, part of what we've talked about though too.
Now Josh has lost his learner's permit.
Yes, exactly. And we had to have a talk about that. And consequences and stuff, but financially it would have shattered me when Jacob lost. I mean, not but that would have been really hard. Like, part of it too is that, not that we're in a less stressful place, we aren't, but like when Jacob and Maria were young, I mean, our finances were tight, and it was hard. So even little financial setbacks were stressful. The same thing with work schedules. Now it's much more flexible. Your kid's sick and you just take a call at home. Like, early in our careers, we didn't have all these virtual options or phone calls. People wanted you face to face. So the pressure that I feel like I was under and that you were under when Jacob and Maria were super young. And then I also still had not really dealt through all these years of therapy and growth with my own stuff, so I'm not even realizing sometimes that, I'm not reacting to what my kid did. I'm reacting to how I have interpreted, or misinterpreted. That's what I should say. I'm reacting to how I've misinterpreted what they did. And even now, I still misinterpret. Like, there were some little things that happened with Jacob and Maria. Like, I build up in my mind, I'm a person that builds up like a lot of expectations, like, I'm going to make this Christmas so magical that it will go down in history as the most magical of ever, and it will erase all of their problems and everybody will be happy and we will love each other and whatever. Same thing even with this move-in, like, we will just have all of these bonding moments and I will, get all of these pictures and we'll make these memories. Well, we moved Jacob in and it's pouring rain and you need a 4-wheel drive to get down his driveway. We had lots of unexpected things, and then that caused the whole changing of the car. So as soon as we get home to start to move Maria, instead of just being able to be like, oh, let's make this the most treasured time ever for Maria before she leaves, we're having to navigate, what in the world is she going to drive and how is everything going to fit? And then you get down there and then I start telling myself things in my head. Like, I start telling myself like, oh, well, my kids don't want to be with me anyway or whatever. I tell myself these lies. And I mean, it still influences me now, but at least now through all this therapy and self-awareness, I can eventually step away and see like, wait a minute, I am totally misinterpreting the situation. And, I can step back and try to make it right. When the kids were little, I wasn't there. And I guess that's what I'm that's the part I think that's hard, because I even look at like with the Joshua and I think about what would have happened if Jacob had lost that retainer or Maria, and it's hard to look back and I want to give myself grace. Like, I want to say, we had less money, we had less time, we were stressed. We didn't know as much. You don't know what you don't know. But I think it's just this dynamic where it's like, I wish you could have the wisdom that you gain with age and life experience earlier in the journey, because I would have done it so much better. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, these were the things I was pondering, is kind of this mismatch between what I'm able to give, like, what I emotionally, mentally, spiritually, how full my bucket was and what I was able to give them at the time. And that probably didn't match up with what they really needed from me. And now that I feel like, I'm not saying I'm perfectly there, because gosh knows, I'm not. But now that I'm better equipped to do that, it's a time that they're more independent than ever, and there's less opportunity for me to meet them there and to do that. And so I think that's part of the struggle, that in addition to all the other things we've talked about with adult kids, it's kind of hard to like be at this stage we're at, where you're super proud of your kids and things, but you think about just things like you could have done differently.
Yeah.
Deep thoughts with Mike. I like that. Yes.
I mean, that was quite the,
Sorry, this
soapbox you just got on.
Well, I think now all of our listeners are probably, this is going to be the lowest of the lowest, because when they heard it got kind of depressing and reflective, everybody's going to be like, this is not what we came here for.
It was depressing at all. I mean, I think, what you're feeling is real life. And, young parents don't realize it. And they'll realize it one day, but they don't realize it right now. And no matter...
And it puts too much pressure on you as a young parent, because I hated it when mature parents like us said, treasure these moments, because I wanted to be like, okay, you want me to treasure the diaper that just blew out for the fourth time when we have no clean clothes and now it's all over? It's like, how do I treasure that? Or like, Maria wouldn't take a bottle or whatever. Like it would make me angry, because you can't be there no matter how much wisdom we're imparting on that, even that younger version of ourselves. We wouldn't be able to hear it, because then we'd just feel even more pressure.
Yeah.
Or more stressed about it. But you're right. Like, it's like you can't see it until you've kind of been through it. And then you're looking back and reflecting on it. Which I do think, to your point, does lead into a lot of this grandparent stuff where, I do think they let your kids overindulge and stuff sometimes, but they realize, like, all right, they have a soda. It's not, they have some sugar or some whatever color dye in the candy they eat, or, and the world didn't end, or they break something, like, well, all those things are replaceable. You start to get that perspective, I think, later. You realize, like, I don't know, just all the things and stuff matter even less than you ever thought they did.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, sorry to end on a downer. That's where I am right now.
That was good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I couldn't contribute. I'm still thinking about that woman that told me no. I'm going to think about her every day for the rest of my life.
Can she be in your stand-up comedy routine?
Every golf tournament I go to for the rest of my life, I'm going to look for that woman.
No, do you know what I want you to do? I want you to just start practicing doing the hand to people. That she gave. I wish people could see me. Again, we don't have a video camera, but I'm doing my demonstration of doing the hand, where you're just going to whip your hand around and turn your head like, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
How dare you even think you could speak to me? That's what I think about. So what kind of poll question are we going to have? Should Mike get the shingles vaccine?
Yeah, that would open up a whole...
No, we're not going to do that. We plus, that's not a good... I don't know. We've got to have a good... We haven't had a good poll question since the one that everybody disagreed with us on. My favorite was the zombie, like, apocalypse. What are you going to contribute? But, like the other, some, or I don't know if we could tie anything into the Russian spy whale. Like, do you think that whale was truly a Russian spy whale or not?
That's too niche, Beth.
No. It would require homework on behalf of our listeners that have to go read up on him. So that'd be a lot.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to think about coming. Maybe. I don't want to force a poll question.
I know. We'll do one maybe next time. But you did have a listener. Did you talk about this last week? Somebody that was local that ran into somebody that we knew?
This week.
Oh, okay. Well, share that really quick.
Oh, and we were just, the podcast is out there and we don't know who listens.
Or if anyone listens.
And so this past week, Tim came in the office and, we had Tim on the show early on. He may have been on episode 4 or 5 or something, and he owns his own IT business. And he came in, he's like, I met one of your fans today. I didn't know what he was talking about. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know I had any. And he was like, yeah. He's like, I was talking to this customer of mine, and he brought up, he's like, hey, he goes, do you listen to podcasts or something? He's like, I was listening to one that's based out of Kernersville. He's like, it says husband and wife. And he was like, I can't remember the name of it. And Tim was like, is it, hey, are you still there? And he was like, yeah, that's it.
Oh, but give the good part, though. Didn't he say that we were hilarious?
Yes.
Yes. I'm like...
He said he loved listening. He didn't know how he found us. He found us. He listens to it. So if that's you and you're listening, thank you for listening. We appreciate it.
Yes, and we hope you still think we're hilarious, because we can be hilarious from time to time. So, yeah, hopefully we'll continue to deliver on that, whatever it is that keeps people coming back to listen to this.
Yeah, well, after last week, it's like we're starting all over again.
Well, I did hear somebody say that if you want to really take off as a podcast, that you have to have content out there 2 times a week. This was somebody who had their podcast. Now, this might have been the rules. They're a very famous podcaster now who's had a podcast for a while. So maybe that was the
Joe
deal.
Rogan.
No, it was not.
Is that who you heard it from?
No, it wasn't.
You know what I read today?
What?
Joe Rogan has started going to church.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
So he had a Christian apologetic-ish. A Christian apologetic-ish. What do you have?
I can't say the word, but
Whatever he was saying.
somebody that's an expert in apologetics. Yeah. So.
On the show in like January. And
Who was it? Because it may be the guy I'm reading his book right now called Believe.
It's some guy from Canada.
Oh, no, this guy's not from Canada.
And they
Never
talked
mind.
for like 3 hours about Christianity. And that guy was doing a radio interview this week, it was some our podcast interview or something, and he said that him and Joe talk very frequently, and he said Joe has started going to church and going consistently to church.
Interesting. Yeah, the book I'm reading is Believe Why Everyone Should Be Religious, and it's a guy who writes for the New York Times. I'm almost finished. It's an interesting take because he goes through it. It's kind of like apologetics, but not fully, because he kind of goes through talking about really big picture, like proof in the universe for a creator, and then breaking down the mainstream religions like Christianity and Islam and all of that, and then getting even more like focused as you go. But it's not like apologetics, like in the sense of like a C.S. Lewis or somebody that's like arguing for Christianity. The guy that wrote it is now a Catholic. He grew up, I think he was, I can't remember, something like Presbyterian. Then they were Pentecostal or something for a while, and then he became Catholic. It was quite the like transition in his spiritual journey. So that's kind of fascinating to read. But anyway, I just say all that. So I was like, what if that was the same guy? But it isn't, because this guy's not from Canada.
Yeah, I think this guy's from Canada. So I found that interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so if anybody else wants to have a book club discussion with me on that book, you can let me know.
The book I've been wanting to read is My Big Dumb Eyes. It's the new Nate Bargatze book.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know this book. I was like, I don't even know what that is.
I wanted to get it on Kindle, and it's not on Kindle yet. It's only like audio and hardback. So, in the audio, he actually reads the book.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Well, I thought it would have been too, but it's really not.
Oh.
Like, I listened to, because you can sample the introduction, and it's one thing listening to Nate on stage tell stories, and he's very engaging with just his slow, methodical, southern kind of.
Oh, but is he going to put you to sleep if he's reading it to you?
But when he's reading, he reads kind of that way in that it feels very choppy. You know what I mean? It's like he'll read a sentence and there's like a pause and another couple sentences and a pause. Where on stage he does the pause for like laugh
dramatic effect. Yes, exactly.
To let it soak in. And here it's like, well, you don't really need that. So like I found that he wasn't reading as fast as I would read.
Well, that's when I just put it on like 1.5 or 2 times speed.
That's what Ross said.
Because then it's like this.
Speed it up.
It's like, and then we went to the, and like it's going that fast, because then you can read a lot faster.
I hear you. You're not reading, but I hear you listening to those books at like
on 1.75. 2 times is too much. 2 times.
How many chipmunk books is she going to read?
You think it's Alvin and the
Yes,
Chipmunks?
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, like it's good. But no, it's not. But it does. I mean, but sometimes you do have to speed them up, because then if I put them down on regular speed, it almost sounds like the adult sounded in like Charlie Brown, like, you know, it's like it's too slow. So anyway, I just think that you could do that. But I think now that we're talking about it and you're appreciating a little bit the audiobook format, it's a real skill set, because the people who are good at it, these voice actors, they don't change their voice in ways that sound silly, but they even change their voice and the way it projects when they're reading as different characters. And it creates a totally different relationship with the book that you're hearing in audio when somebody does it like that, versus somebody like me who would literally just maybe be reading everything the same. And I'm not even, because I think my voice goes up and down a lot. You know, people can't see my hands flopping because I talk with my hands.
She just painted the fence.
I did. Yes, like in Karate
Kid style.
Yes, I was painting up and down. But I think that, you know, that's something people don't appreciate would be like just a really good skilled audiobook reader. It can really change the experience for you. So anyway.
Well, if this lawyer thing, podcast thing don't work out for you, Beth, maybe you can be a book reader.
Maybe I could. Or I've thought about if there's some way I can tie in my knowledge of Norway to getting like maybe to be like the ambassador to Norway or something like that. That would be cool. Or maybe just something to do with Hufflepuff and Harry Potter world. I could do some things like that. I don't know. There's got to be something out there for me.
You know what? I had written that down as a topic for a show at some point. Maybe we'll do that next week. If you weren't a lawyer, what would I be? Doing? And if I wasn't a pastor, what would I be?
See, one thing that's hard about that.
We can't get into that right now.
The one thing I have to say that's hard about it, though, I just have to tell you.
No, stop.
Listen, it's because people are always like, I'd be a photojournalist that travels the world. I'm like, would I though? I mean, I think I would. That sounds super fun. But I also have things that I want to have some stability in my home and stuff. So I'm really going to have to think about this. This is going to be hard.
A photojournalist?
Who?
That old lady from the golf course.
That's right. She is not a photojournalist capturing the moment person for anybody.
I hope she got hit in the head with a golf ball.
Oh my gosh.
I do. I was like, I hope something happens to her today.
That is terrible.
A golf ball hits her just square, knocks her out.
And then you could walk by and be like, I would ask someone to render aid, but no, you could just do the hand. Like, I'm sorry. Don't bother me asking for help.
I thought, like, if I walked by her and she would fall in, and she was like, can you help me up? I'd be like, nope.
No.
I'd just keep on walking. I would. I was so angry at that woman.
I'm still angry at her too. I think if you could we need to get like a sketch artist to help you do like a compilation, like artistic rendering of her. And then we can put it on social media. Like, have you seen this woman? And then we need to find her and I need to let her know how upsetting, how she has really disappointed me and upset, like just the way that we should all be treating each other with kindness and love and respect. And one way you do that is taking a family picture for somebody when they politely ask. It's not that much.
Maybe that's the poll question. When asked, do you always take a picture?
Yes, because I do. And I'm sorry, but the people that don't, you better, this is one time, if you say no, you better be dropping in the comments why. It better be something like,
I don't know if I can be friends with you if you say no. Well, if I know you and you say no, that may end our friendship.
Well, if they have IBS and have to go to the bathroom instead of taking a picture, if they have to
say all kinds of stuff.
Well, yeah, like if I'm rushing to work or if I whatever.
This lady was not in a hurry; she was just going.
Yeah.
So that's the question.
Yeah.
If asked.
Yeah.
Would you stop and take a picture for a stranger?
And we're not talking about you've just found out that your house is on fire, so you have to get there. You know, this is normal circumstances. You're at the zoo. You're at the park.
And when it comes back 100% yes, I will go to this woman's grave and I will take a picture and
tape it. This lady would not take pictures, but all of these other people would. Yeah. Yes. Right. We'll find her.
Everybody have a great week. This is Mike.
And Beth.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.